Oh, what's this? Oh, interesting. Live service AAA games keep failing. Skull and Bones and Suicide Squad flop. I think it's true to a point. Let's listen.
Gamers rejoice. Today is a good day for gaming because live services are no longer going to be what we've seen up until now.
No joke. I thought this was Sea of Thieves when I just watched the intro to make sure this wasn't like terrible or something. I thought it was Sea of Thieves. This is actually Skull and Bones, and I think Skull and Bones is a worse game than Sea of Thieves.
I think we are witnessing a dramatic shift towards the future of how live services work, and that is off the back of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Skull and Bones, and Helldivers 2.
Okay, I'm completely with this. And you want to know why? I'm completely with this because he's talking about two flops and then he's talking about a game that absolutely nailed it. Got a super chat here. Love what you're doing, Destin. Keep it up. Very few in the community with a voice of reason. Thank you, Xanark. The Xbox community is in shambles right now, and it's a dang shame. That's all I got to say. That's what it took. A couple of B-tier games going over to PlayStation for y'all to crumble, for y'all to start saying we're going to lose all our games and Xbox is like, I can't believe it. I can't believe that all the diehards just left. It was, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, let's continue on. I don't think Sea of Thieves was bad.
Catastrophe, the disasters that have been Suicide Squad and Skull and Bones. These three games are going to send a message to other developers, to publishers, that live service games need to change. They need to function a little bit differently.
They need to function. They need to function. They need to work. You know what the problem with Helldivers was? I couldn't freaking play it, and I just wanted to play it more. That was their problem. They had so many people who wanted to play across console and PC that you literally couldn't sign on. They've now upped the cap to 700K, and it seems like it's sort of leveling out around 400,000 concurrents on a good day, right? And I also think the hype is finally starting to die down, but they're like, okay, let's do 700,000 concurrents. Imagine if Helldivers had no server issues at launch, how big that would have been. I think I'm almost level 10, or I just hit level 10 in Helldivers. And in Last Epoch, I'm like 25. Last Epoch suffering from the same freaking problem. These little $40 games are better than $100 early access Suicide Squad. And it's awesome. I freaking love it, if I'm being honest. Now we need to figure out the server issue.
If you intend for them to not crash and burn this hard, and if you want them to be successful like Helldivers 2, not only do you need to make a great game, but you need to be very careful with how you implement those live service features and that monetization. And
Agreed.
In my humble opinion, this is going to lead us into a new era of live service games that will still exist, but will not resemble the monstrosities that we've had to deal with until now.
I agree. I think we're going to see a big shift with how these live service games are created and how they're delivered to customers. And I think it's a wonderful thing. I cannot wait to see the next generation of gaming. And, you know, I talk about how Suicide Squad should have stuck with doing the single player thing. Like, you have perfected your art over a decade and then you want to jump into live service. Why? Like, what director made the call to make that jump and why? Evolve where you're the strongest. Don't try and do something crazy like that. It's weird.
The games industry is no stranger to trend chasing, and we've been trend chasing for a long time. Suicide Squad was in development for over 6 years, and Skull and Bones was technically in development for 11 years and somehow managed to come out and be a worse version of a game that came out 11 years ago.
There was Black Flag, and there was also Assassin's Creed Rogue, right? Yeah, there was Black Flag and there was Assassin's Creed Rogue. And those were better ship experiences than Sea of Thieves, according to a lot of these people. And it's really weird that we're going backwards. We're going backwards with so many of these games. Suicide Squad is done. They just released the patch that made the game worse and less stable. And they have 12, 13 more Brainiacs that we're supposed to kill. I don't think that game finishes. I think they just drop it. I think Suicide Squad's done.
So, there you go. My point is, these studios, these publishers got these ideas in their head of making live service games, of making continuous revenue streams, as they call it, a long time ago. And it turns out that in that long time, a lot of what they've wanted to chase just doesn't work anymore. Like most trends, they do pass, and hopefully we keep the good from them and not the bad. As much as we just like to associate live service game with bad, then there's also hundreds of thousands of people who really enjoyed Deep Rock Galactic. Another example that makes it clear that live service games are kind of on the way out, or at least going through a very big transformation, I don't think they'll ever disappear, is Sony's announcement 3 months ago that they were reducing their 12 planned live service games. Sorry for the screaming. I forgot that it was...
Yeah, it was 12. And he's having the same reaction I did when I discovered it months ago, and I made a video about this. It was 12. It wasn't 6, 12. And while Suicide Squad does have stuff in the pipe, people are interested about the Joker and his moveset from a narrative perspective. They're like, what is this? A Joker who is unsure about himself? What are you doing? What are you trying to say about the Joker? It's like, what? Joker's a mass murderer, period. What are you doing?
12, and I have it here in my notes. 12 live service games, and they're only doing 6 and focusing on quality control. That's how you know something has gotten out of hand, is when one single publisher is working on 12 games that work this way. And
to be fair, I think PlayStation has done live service quite well in certain instances. Think about it. The Last of Us team basically said, we're out. We're not going to do it. So that one's gone. They've reduced their forecast for how big of a bet they made on this. Helldivers is a massive success, and it's like a live service light. Gran Turismo 7 has done a really, really good job with their live service model and how they're implementing it. You don't get my hate for Suicide Squad. Go play the game. You and your 800 other buddies can go play Suicide Squad and have a great time. I highly encourage it. It's clear that that game is a stinker. It's not about hating it. I'm frustrated because one of my favorite developers of all time released a game that was terrible. And nobody's playing it. Now we have these other properties that have live service, and Sony's been doing quite good. Gran Turismo 7 was their first foray into live service, and it's kind of working. It didn't work at launch. They kind of went crazy with monetization, but yeah, I actually think it's going okay.
I'm going to place a bet here, and probably only 4 of those will ever come out. I don't know how many of them will be successful, but I don't think all 6 are coming out. I mean, we can look at the recent failure of Hyenas by Sega and Creative.
Hyena didn't even come out. They just shut it all down. It's going great. Good to see you.
Another failed attempt at a live service game. But more interestingly, I think we can look at something like The Finals, which I think is a fantastic first-person shooter that just feels really fun to play.
How many of you in chat refused to play The Finals because they used AI for that one voice line? Literally anybody in chat. Did anybody abstain from playing The Finals because it utilized AI in any capacity? I bet you nobody. I bet you 0 people had a moral qualm with the idea that The Finals used AI, but you played it anyway. And that's what's going to happen. There's all this talk about how everybody does not like AI, but they all play it anyway. And that's what matters at the end of the day. You're going to play it. Mordecai says, watched your review of Suicide Squad. I appreciated the time you took to bring it to the community. Thank you. Very few people watch my reviews. People are like, Destin, why don't you review more games? Because nobody watches my reviews. I did a Last Guardian review that probably has like 1,000 views on it. I spent a lot of time on that. Reviews take a lot of work. Especially the 50 hours it took me to do the Suicide Squad one.
It's a game that gave me more genuine enjoyment while playing compared to the sometimes endless treadmill of other live service first-person shooters. But it's definitely not topping the charts like it was a while back. And while it's very healthy,
that's good,
it hasn't retained a top spot among what people choose to play. And I think part of it is that it's just too late. People are burnt out, and so am I.
You know what? I don't think the finals problem is burnout or like, it's not like a Destiny. You don't have to live in the finals to be good at the finals. I think the finals is just fun for a few hours and then you move on. I think that's the long and the short of it. I don't think it's some crazy conspiracy theory. I just think it's a fun game that you play for 10 hours and then you're done. And then you bounce. This is, let me actually get you the name of the content creator, MugThief. I've never heard of him before. It just popped up in my feed.
We are tired of the FOMO and the constant job-like feeling of maintaining our battle pass progression in 2 or 3 different live service games that we're playing. Even if you don't have the battle pass, you're constantly bombarded with the idea that it exists and you should have it. I think...
So I agree with that. I think the finals is a bad game to make the point that this creator is making, but let's use a better example and solidify his point. We don't want to come home from work and do another job after our job. I don't want to come home from work and then have to do my job playing Destiny. Games should be fun, and fewer games are remembering that. Destiny went super formulaic with the grind, and it's just like, oh, I gotta do this mission I don't really want to do. And it's not really that fun anymore. Maybe Finals has something similar to that, but you could extrapolate that to any of these live service games where you have players signing on to grind through a bunch of stuff that they don't really want to play, that's not really fun, that takes too long to get a gun that they already have. Like, everybody's tired of that. We don't want to come home from our job to do a job, and the bubble has burst. Helldivers, meanwhile, doesn't have any of that. You can just play the game with your buddies, and it's about sort of the craziness that happens. Well, yeah.
Many people maybe switched over to the finals from their main game, whatever it might be. They had a great time. Some of them have stuck, but others just feel like they've already invested so much of their lives into whatever is that main game that they just went back to it.
Yep.
So for a live service game like the finals to succeed, it's not good enough for it to be a good game or for it to have a decent live service model or even...
It has to be the best game, the game that everybody plays, and that's all that they play. And every company wants that. So the market's oversaturated. It has to be the game that everybody is living in all the time. And there's a point where I think we're hitting a point where the gaming community with gamers like that, it's reached their saturation. I can't play Destiny in the finals and Halo and this and that and that and that. And like whatever's going on with Diablo 4, I'm just going to go back to my favorite one. And that's the one that I'm going to play.
And just a better one than its competitors.
Yeah.
It also needs to come at a time when people are sick of their current game, whatever that might be. And I don't think people who are sick of their current game now are really looking to jump into a different live service. We're all just kind of tired of it. So breaking into...
Yeah, he's right. Real quick, are the audio levels good, by the way? Is it balanced out well? I think it is. My highlight button broke.
To this space, making more live service games, investing so much money and time and talent, like the situation with Suicide Squad, just to make a live service game for it to fail. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see that happen very often anymore. I think they are learning their lesson and understanding that it's too late to get into this business. People are too tired. And if you really want to make a game that continues throughout a long period of time, is constantly updated, includes new content, and just that is a good thing for me. I like that idea of this is a game I really like. Even if I stop playing it, when I come back, there's going to be new maps and new heroes or new weapons, new stuff to do. That's a noble ideal to chase. But if you're
going to patch your game and make it so that the head hitbox is up here and you just kind of destroy the core tenets of the FPS genre, then maybe, yeah, you know, maybe you're going to lose a few players here and there.
If you're going to do it, it's got to be differently and in a way that doesn't make the consumer feel terrible like many of these games currently do. This is simply a case of the market telling the game developers, telling the people making the product, that what they are making is not good enough, it's not interesting enough for people to play it. People don't want to spend their money and waste their lives away on these games for a
And that, you know what, that one really hits home. The idea of wasting your life. At some point with Destiny, I just broke. I made the video about why I don't play Destiny anymore. A lot of it is the grind. A lot of it is like, okay, you're not allowed to collect the cutscenes and post it anymore. It's just like insanity to me.
Variety of different reasons. Obviously, these games do succeed, and there will be more of them, but they are going to either crash and burn immediately or not. And I think that a lot of that has to do with how they adapt and start approaching those friendlier business models and actually making great games that people want to play, instead of not only making live service games, but on top of that, they're pretty bad. I'm also sad and happy. This news is bittersweet because of the developers. A lot of these developers have spent years of their life, significant chunks, thousands of people on something like Skull and Bones, just to make a game that is mediocre and is not going to be a success at all, and will probably mislead the developers and mislead the publisher into thinking that, oh, people want this other thing, when what they just...
Yeah, so here's the thing about that, though. That's true of any game. Let's say Rocksteady, the whole team was like, yeah, let's make a games as a service game. We really want to do that, even though the departures would seem to indicate a lot of people were not happy about that project and moved on, and some former developers have talked about that. Ares, 30 months, thank you. I think Xbox is heading in a great direction, although live service games need to go away. Been with Xbox since the OG system. Good. They're doing something different, and that's okay. They've tried doing what everybody else is doing. It didn't work so great. Game Pass, big success for them. Big success for me as a consumer. I say let them keep doing what they're going to do. Anyway, yeah, like, look, you could have the best idea in the world, and if it doesn't execute well, you're going to fail in the market. And that's just the reality of any market. I had a cookie business. We did okay, but were we making Nabisco money? No, we weren't making Nabisco money. Nabisco, give me a call. Xanark, thank you for becoming a core supporter. And yeah, like, that's just the reality of the world. So I feel kind of bad for them because it's like 7 years of their life, but at the same time, it's like, that's how the cookie crumbles.
Just one is a good game. Those people's lives were in a way wasted on this stuff, and a lot of the talent, especially...
Well, no, see, like, people are like, I feel like I wasted my life playing Destiny. I made a lot of friendships playing Destiny. I had a great time all through Destiny 1. Like, when I was at that point in my life and I was able to enjoy doing Vault of Glass with friends and accomplishing those things that I accomplished in the games, it was wonderful. These developers that made games that came out and they were bad, did they get their big payday? No, but they were paid for 7 years to work in the video game industry, and they probably learned a lot. So to say it was wasted, I don't think that's fair. I think you gain a lot even by making a big pile of garbage. You learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. I've heard that saying before. So hopefully Rocksteady is learning and able to grow from where they're at right now.
When we think of studios like Rocksteady with Suicide Squad, that talent seems to be wasted on something like this. At the same time, I think that not every single developer that's working on a live service game is like working in a mine and is now suffering and struggling to pay the bills of working on something that they hate. Because, like I've said, I think there's merit to a live service. I come from a time where getting a new map pack for Call of Duty 4 was the most incredible thing. Because we love the game, we love the progression. Call of Duty 4, a great game, but like everything, it starts to get stale. The game is just the same stuff is overpowered, the same maps, everybody knows everything, and suddenly having new maps gives you a new reason to play the game, for example.
And you know what? I agree with that to a point. The problem is what has happened with a lot of the games that we play is that they just re-released the old maps that we already knew. And like, there's a moment of fanfare, but it's like, wait a minute, haven't I paid for this like 6 times now? Especially in Call of Duty's case. Oh, Burger Town's back for the 30th time. Yay. At some point, like, you've been sold the same thing so many times and you're just kind of like, I'm over it.
So post-game content is something that a lot of people really enjoy. It's just that when you make your live service...
Aries brings up a good point. Games are just too expensive to make, and if devs and publishers can't reduce costs, we'll be heading towards another crash. I agree that games are too expensive to make, but they don't have to be. Last Epoch, it's having issues, but it just came out and proved that you do not need to charge $70 for games. You don't need to be Diablo to be great. I think Last Epoch gameplay is so good. I watch a lot of Asmongold. I said, and he's playing right now also. You know what he said? They get the feeling of just wrecking shop, like killing opponents in that game. So good. Every time. I'm using the hammer build right now if you're playing Last Epoch. And the feeling of power that you get as a player is so good. That game gets it right. Diablo got it right too, to a point, but what happened is by the end game, they just nerfed you so bad that it stopped being fun near the end game. So there's a problem. There's a problem there somewhere. Your power climb isn't rewarded appropriately.
Service model all about, well, the game will be better eventually because we'll just keep adding content, and I promise, because the game...
Laura Fryer did a whole thing about day one patches, so I'll let him continue, but devs need to stop relying on day one patches to fix everything because, you know what? Gamers are tired of that excuse. No, my game should work at launch. Even Last Epoch, which I'm enjoying, is having server issues. People aren't having it. Helldivers 2, same situation. Like, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. You get a little bit more of a pass if you're a small developer, but it's to a point, right?
And we're releasing is mediocre right from the start. Well, people are going to get tired of it. People are going to get tired of the constant battle passes, of these games feeling like they demand your attention permanently. And it just becomes a space that is too competitive. People will keep giving their time to the games that they've already given their time to. And I think that once they stop, a lot of people will just leave this type of game completely. There will be new people that maybe are interested in new live service games, but I hope that by then, this trend has changed. It has become something that is better, is healthier. If these...
Healthier, that is a really great way to put it. It is so hard for me to go back and play Destiny 2 right now. Just knowing how far behind I am and what I need to do to catch up. And every time I sign in, I played a lot of Destiny and I have no idea what I'm doing when I sign into that game right now. I'm like, all right, so I'm still back on the Drifter underwater missions. I got to play through that. There's no more matchmaking. They ripped that out of the game. Like, a lot of the changes have negatively impacted the long tail of that game. So I think Helldivers is really, really healthy. You play one game, maybe you spend 15 minutes, maybe you spend 30 minutes playing that one round, and then you sign off. It's wonderful. It's very healthy. GT7, same thing. You do one race. All right, I did my daily. I'm out.
These games need to exist. If they need to be monetized, I think there are options for them to be monetized in ways that are better for the consumer. Games that don't lock any gameplay content behind a paywall at all, for example, and
or story elements, for example, being time gated. Like, everybody's just tired of it. Oh, you're going to make me play 13 months of Suicide Squad or a year of Suicide Squad before I get a conclusion to the story. How about I just stop playing? How's that sound? All right. That's what I'm going to do.
Only sell cosmetics. That's not the worst route to take. I think that an expansion model could work very well. The problem with expansions has always been that you might separate the player base, but Something like Destiny 2, but without additional microtransactions on top of having to pay for a full price game plus the expansions.
I got a hot take here. I really miss expansion packs. Like, just thinking about ODST was like a DLC that you could buy on disc for Halo 3, right? I can't remember exactly what happened with ODST, but like that was cool. That was like a cool game, one-off, and it was like a side thing. Yeah. I don't know. I do kind of miss the day of being able to buy an expansion, and it's just like a really tight-knit experience. Nowadays,
kind of like a classic MMO, but without the cash shop.
Nowadays, they just string you along.
I think a lot of people would be happy with that. I also think that games with a price, something like Helldivers 2, but that also further monetize, giving you access to those premium things by just playing the game, essentially making it so that you can pay to unlock things earlier, isn't the worst thing if they don't compromise the competitive balance of how the game works or its.
I agree with that. Sure, you can get all the other cool guns or whatever early by paying, but the best guns are the starter guns. That should be your balance point.
Progression. I guess what I'm saying is there are ways to make this less horrible, and I think that if they steer towards friendlier ways, they will be rewarded. And right now, what we know for sure is that following the traditional strategies with things like Suicide Squad and Skull and Bones, they are not seeing any success. So that has to have an impact on the market and on the developers making these games. For one, if I can make a bold prediction about everything, I think time-gated battle passes are a thing of the past moving forward, except in games that already use them, right? Things that are legacy games like Fortnite
Destiny
or Apex. But newer games that are going to attempt to have live service models like Helldivers, I think they're going to transition to the Halo Infinite model, where the battle pass itself isn't time-gated. You can get it at any point, and the cosmetics or the items in that battle pass, even if it's 2 years later, you can still get that first original battle pass and get what you want, be it.
Yeah, I think Halo Infinite did battle passes really well. You could just, if you buy it, you can finish it. And once you finish it, you get the next one for free. So you can buy the next one and start working on that. Or you can just, I only bought one battle pass in Halo Infinite, and I never paid for another one because you unlock enough to buy the other ones. I know they've adjusted the strategy, but I thought it worked really well. And it's a good way to keep players engaged, working towards something without feeling like you're fleecing them. I kind of like it. It's not perfect, but it's probably one of the best ones I've seen.
With money or with earnable credits in the game. However,
that's what it was, Clay.
Thank you. Not time locked out of it. That's really important to have people play your game when they already have a main game or when they have been burned by that system in the past. But overall, I feel really positive about these failures. Well, like I said, I'm very sad for the people who worked on these games.
I'm not. They're going to learn a lot. And they probably learned a lot over those 7 years, and they were able to take home a paycheck for 7 years. So I don't feel tremendously bad. I will if there's a ton of layoffs, but I hope they learn from it and come back stronger.
And whatever conditions they have been in or the decisions that led to these situations. But I'm very happy that...
He's also conflating a bad game with crunch and some other problems that the industry faces. There's no indication that Suicide Squad suffered from crunch or anything like that. Or the games that he's aligning with negative attributes also have a parallel where there were other problematic things. So I think just in general, I don't think anybody's like, yeah, we really want all game devs to work until their eyes bleed or anything like that. But there's people like me, I like to work that way. I'm not saying it's healthy. Don't be like me. Have a good work-life balance. But there's people that just like to do that. Is it somebody else's? Is it your chat? Is it your responsibility to tell me I'm not being healthy and that I need to take a break? No, I'm an adult. I'll make that decision for myself. Don't tell me how to work. If I want to work more hours or I want to work off hours, I'm 42 years old. I can make that decision for myself. I don't want anybody telling me how to do my life. So, if it's being forced upon people, that is bad. If that's how people choose to work, like myself, then I think that is okay. And, yeah, I don't know. That's my take on it. I like to work a lot. When I play with my kids, I play with my kids and I focus on that. When I work, I really like to work. And that's just how I am.
The market that we are reacting to it by saying, no, we don't want it. These games are bad. And that the general tone of the conversation towards these two games is, this is not what we want. This is not how you do it. You have to stop doing this. Please make better games and rethink your strategy. Because we are definitely at the point now where a general consumer, your Call of Duty bro, your person who goes to Walmart to buy a video game, now knows what a live service game is, and they don't want it. They're tired, They hear it, and they think, no, man, I don't have the time for another battle pass, for another this thing. No, I don't want to buy skins. I hate those cash shops.
I would argue that Sony is doing service to talk to Joypad. Joypad said Sony already lost the service wars. Microsoft was like, step aside, please. I think Sony has been doing live service very well. Gran Turismo 7 didn't launch with friendly microtransaction prices. They figured it out, and it's a very, very strong entry. Helldivers 2 is a great example of how to do it right. Thanks for checking out the stream, Broken.
I don't like those games. And as that translates into sales and into coverage, we're going to see it change, at least in my opinion. Please make something better, and if you're going to make it a live service, you better rethink it carefully. You better rethink the whole thing over to give us something that we are happy with. And if you don't, we're not going to tolerate it. Anyways, let me know in the comments below if there would be a live service model that you think is healthy. If there is something, I don't know, Deep Rock Galactic, which I said before, if that's something that you enjoy.
I've answered this question already.
To be struck. If you just don't want any live service games to exist at all. And let me know if you agree that this is a moment of change, that from here there might be a before and after for live service games, especially when it comes to development of new ones. If you're not subscribed, remember to subscribe. And hey, you're already here at the end of the video. Don't
like the channel and
hit
chat.
The like button. It helps the video reach more people.
That was a great video. I agree with all of the points that he made. I think there's a few that could have been stronger, but that's one of the best analyses I've watched on the channel. I agree with this person. I think that live services aren't going to go away. Here's his channel, by the way, if you want to subscribe. But I do think that it's going to change. And I think there are examples where it has been done correctly. I think Gran Turismo 7 figured it out. I think Helldivers is doing it really well. I'd even say that the finals seem to be okay. State of Decay 2 is still getting updates. So I do think there are examples of how to do it right. I think the games as a service model is going to change drastically because people are fatigued by it. And I think that's the long and the short of it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for the subscribers. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. It's underneath the chat. You can sort of see it. But yeah, hit the thank you to the members. I really appreciate the members for supporting this channel. Thank you so much. Hit that join button right down there. Thank you for watching and following along. I'm going to get out of here, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.